Welcome back, true believers and all you spectacular Spidey fans, to another incredibly exciting episode of Spider-Man PS5, or should I specifically say, Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered 101. And man, let me tell you that it felt incredibly good to replay that intro. So yes, rather than being brand new information relating to Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, which again is going to be both on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, today we are going to specifically break down some brand new information which has been unveiled for the remastered version of Marvel's Spider-Man. Now, just in case you missed it, I did already do a previous 101 video breaking down all the new assets that Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered will feature on the PlayStation 5. So if you do want to check that video out, I will leave a link for it in the description below. And while there has been loads of hype revolving around Miles Morales, there have indeed been some unknown factors with the Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered Edition which haven't been made clear up until this point. And while these new bits of information have upset some of the general fan base for Marvel's Spider-Man, I do understand exactly why Insomniac are going this route in the grand scheme of things. But to fully break down the news entirely, I will read off of a newly published Game Informer article which does do a great job of completely analyzing all the latest bits of info. Now obviously, all this information does come directly from Insomniac Games themselves on their social media pages, but I do think that Game Informer does do a great job of putting things in a better perspective. So like we have been told in the past, is as of right now, the only way that you can actually obtain the Marvel Spider-Man Remastered Edition is if you end up purchasing the Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales Ultimate Edition exclusively on PS5. Because the only difference between the standard edition of Miles Morales on PS4 and PS5 versus the Ultimate Edition exclusively on PS5 is that it does come bundled with the Marvel Spider-Man Remastered Edition. So because the fact that there are so many different versions of Miles Morales that you can purchase on the day one release of the game and the PS5 console as a whole, this then led a fellow Twitter user to ask Insomniac directly whether or not we can expect a physical release of Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered to launch with the PS5. And honestly, I was actually a bit surprised when it did come to the answer that Insomniac gave, as well as some other piece of information which does seem to have quite a lot of people upset. And the fact of the matter is that Insomniac Games themselves officially confirmed that Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered won't have a physical release on PS5, as well as no PS4 save transfers, meaning that you will have to completely play the game again from the very beginning once you do buy the remastered version. Now, when it comes specifically to the PS4 transfer quote-unquote problem, I don't necessarily view that as much of an issue. As for the physical release, that is a little bit of a bummer in my opinion. But to gain a better perspective from Game Informer's summary, they do go on to state on their article saying, with Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales on the horizon, PlayStation fans planning on diving in on the PS5 are excited to see how the game runs on Sony's most upgraded technology. With more of a focus on digital than any generation prior, the news that the Marvel Spider-Man Remaster game won't have a physical release on PlayStation 5 isn't a huge loss, but something to be aware of regardless. With the launch of Miles Morales, the game is getting a PS5 upgrade as well, with new improvements made to the title's performance and visuals. Paired with Miles being front and center thanks to the continuing story, it's an exciting time to be a Marvel fan. That being said, for those that like physical releases or were planning to purchase it as a gift, Insomniac Games has actually confirmed that a Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered won't see a disc version and it won't offer save transfers. And as for the official statement itself, this was asked by fellow Twitter user NCR_Ranger, saying, will there be a Spider-Man Remastered physical copy released at some point for PS5? With Insomniac Games directly replying, no plans to release physically. And alongside of this, when one person inquired about picking up where they left off with the PlayStation 4 version, the Insomniac Games account then replied, saves won't transfer from the original game to the remaster. And as a little bonus to add on to these new bits of information is that we do have another inquiry from a fellow Twitter user named Jose Esteban. And while this might have been seen as a given due to the fact that we will be receiving new trophies to unlock with the remastered edition, Jose did ask Insomniac on Twitter saying, will Marvel Spider-Man PS5 Remaster be on our separate trophy list? Can we unlock another platinum trophy? And as for Insomniac's response, they did confirm that it is indeed a completely separate trophy list, meaning that just like your save data from the PS4 version of Marvel Spider-Man, the Marvel Spider-Man Remastered Edition is going to have a completely brand new list of trophies to unlock when playing the game from the start, as well as not having save data of the original original game transfer over to the remastered version on launch day with the PS5. So while this may seem like quite a bit of information to unpack all at once, I do think all of these newer details were pretty straightforward from the get-go. However, even though I will be more than happy to completely buy the Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales Ultimate Launch Edition on day one release, I do think it would have been a bit better if Insomniac had provided the option of deciding whether or not to completely buy the Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales Ultimate Edition, or simply deciding to buy the remastered version of Spider-Man PS4 as a physical release all on its own. Because coming from me and my own personal opinion, I actually really do like physical copies of games more than downloading them digitally. And even though you are guaranteed to have the voucher code of the remastered edition bundled with the Ultimate Edition of Miles Morales, I still think the option of a physical copy would have been just as good. But lastly, the one factoid that I do see some people freaking out about, which I don't really understand the reasoning as to why, is that the completely new and improved edition of Spider-Man PS4 with the remastered version will not be able to transfer over PlayStation 4 save files from that version of the game on that console. Now, I don't know if some of you may have forgotten about this or anything, but this has almost always been the case with any other game's remastered edition. And the best possible example that I can use in this situation is none other than probably the most famous game to come over from the PS3 onto the PS4. And in case you're unaware, I am in fact talking about another first-party studio from Sony Interactive Entertainment, none other than Naughty Dog themselves, and primarily their masterpiece of The Last of Us Remastered. Now, what's crazy about The Last of Us Part 1 is that Naughty Dog actually managed to release that game at the very end of the PlayStation 3's life cycle. And almost a year afterwards, they then decided to completely remaster the game from the ground up and move that onto the PS4. But the most important thing to understand here is that this wasn't just a simple port of The Last of Us Part 1, but rather a complete rework of the game's visual graphics onto the PS4 system. And that is exactly what Insomniac Games is going to be doing for Spider-Man PS4 and moving that onto the PlayStation 5. So essentially, don't try and view Marvel's Spider-Man as a simple port from the PS4 to the PS5, but rather the Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered Edition is a completely brand new game all on its own. And knowing that we will not have any save data from our previous game loaded onto this new version is completely understandable in my opinion. And while you will have multiple ways to actually play the remastered version on the PlayStation 5, just know that I'm going to be purchasing the Ultimate Edition on its day one launch. And as soon as I complete Miles Morales' game in its full glory, you already know that I'm going to jump right back into Marvel's Spider-Man 1 with the remastered edition on PS5. And I can 110% guarantee you that that is going to be one hell of a good time. But with all that said, everyone, that's the video I have for you today, and please let me know all your thoughts in the comments section down below. What do you think about all this news revolving around the Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered Edition, and how exactly are you planning to actually go about playing both Spider-Man games on their day one launch? Based on all the information that Insomniac have provided to us about the remastered version so far, that is clearly going to be the most definitive way to fully immerse yourself within the Marvel Spider-Man universe. And if all the visual improvements that the game will carry weren't enough, I still can't believe that we're going to actually receive 3 brand new suits as well as new photo mode features and brand new trophies. So if you are someone who absolutely loved everything about Spider-Man PS4, I guarantee you that the remastered version is going to be even better. And until the next major news update, everyone, thank you all so much for watching. Stay spectacular, Spidey fans. Feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy. And without further ado, peace out.
We have to be the ones that years from now. Did you play Marvel Spider-Man? Oh my gosh, that was the greatest Spider-Man game ever. That's our goal. That's what we have to swing for.
PlayStation